So, before I talk about this movie, I should probably do some explaining. Why? Why in God's name would I, a 20-year-old man, review a Thomas movie? Well, because of that very reason. Last month was my birthday. I am now 2 decades old. 20 is a big number, and why not celebrate the occasion by reviewing the biggest icon in my life? And yes, I'm not exaggerating. I knew Thomas the Tank Engine when I was exactly 3 days old, my first toy that day being the Take-Along Toby and Percy, and my first DVD being Thomas and His Friends Helps Out, with Birdie's fat ass on the cover. From seasons 1 to 12, I was able to name every character on the spot, but naturally as I got older, I started to grow distant and moved on to other things. That is to say that from time to time, I grow curious on how the franchise is doing nowadays, which was how I found out about Bubba, Edward, Henry, and Toby being replaced, the show turning into this god-awful cartoon, and of course, the engines bouncing. So let's start at where this downward spiral began, which is this movie. Thomas and Magic Railroad was released in 2000 and was directed and written by Britt Allcroft, who worked on the TV series. It was the first full-length Thomas and Friends movie and was Allcroft's passion project, but it received criticism by the test audience, resulting in the film getting a huge makeover, and what do you know, movie became a huge flop with catastrophic results. But before we get into the details and my review of this film, let's talk about the story. The story starts in the island of Sodor, showcasing all the engines working their buffers off, when a diesel engine with a killer claw arrives on the island. He's voiced by Neil Crone, is racist to steam engines, and wants to destroy a magic railroad. Yep, totally good idea to bring this maniac here, and his two cronies, Wario and Waluigi.
Actually, it's a splatter.
and dodge.
The story now takes place in somewhere in America, where we meet Patch, Cody McMains, who stumbles upon Brunette Stone's Batcave. Stone, played by Peter Fonda, has a secret steam engine that had once crashed, and because she can't produce steam, the connection between the real world and Sodor is broken. Meanwhile, Stone's granddaughter Lily, Mara Wilson, is visiting him but doesn't know which train to get onto, despite a conductor being right behind her.
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
So she finds a dog and she's like, "Do you know which train to get on?"
Eventually.
However, the dog, for whatever reason, leads her to the wrong train, which takes her to Shining Time. There she meets this lady wearing a Candyland costume who takes her to Stone. Hey, wait a minute, how did this dog get from Shining Time to wherever this place is? Meanwhile, the conductor, Alec Baldwin, has been given the responsibility to watch the island of Sodor whilst Topham Hatt is gone, even though he doesn't get his own sleeping headquarters.
So who dropped the ball then?
What the f***? So Diesel 10 goes, "Oh yeah," and harasses Baldwin and the steam engines. After Diesel 10 is scared away with TikTok, and Baldwin starts running out of gold dust to escape, Baldwin starts having more flashbacks in his sleep, and concludes that he needs to find more pixie dust. And instead of using one of the engines, or taking the bus, or hail the helicopter, Baldwin goes on foot to search for the windmill. Alone in the wilderness, he gets the idea to have his cousin deliver some more gold dust for him. Soon afterwards, Baldwin finds the windmill, which cryptically tells him the ingredients to gold dust, apparently using Aether, the god of air. Meanwhile, Junior, voiced by Michael E. Rogers, encounters Lily and for whatever the goddamn reason, takes her to Sodor knowing full well that she might not get back. When they arrive and find Baldwin, Lily is sent back to America using the recently discovered Magic Railroad. In here, they take a coal truck they find since it's part of the clue to the gold dust. They bring the coal to Stone and Lady, allowing them to restore the Magic Railroad, murder Diesel 10, and finish the recipe to make golden crack. It's a happy ending for all. The end. So let's talk about the movie. The first thing you're probably thinking is, this movie is complicated.
And you're right.
We're dealing with a total of 5 different plots. Mr. Stone wanting to bring back the magic, Baldwin Jr. wanting to get more gold dust, Lily wanting to be on better terms with her grandfather, Diesel 10 wanting the Magic Railroad destroyed, and Shining Time Station getting turned into Detroit. That's double the amount of plot that a movie should have, and therefore it's complicated and hard to follow. But I want you to really think about what I said in my plot synopsis when I ask you this. What's missing? Is there anything I didn't mention? Yeah, Thomas. Thomas and his friends is unimportant to the overall plot. Take them out and nothing changes. It'll still be the sappy, drama-induced film about humans that nobody came to see. Be honest, you came for Thomas, the engine the movie is named after. We're dealing with a movie equivalent of a clickbait. As a toddler, I really wanted to fast forward to the Sodor stuff, but unfortunately I didn't know how to use the remote, and I know for certain that I couldn't have been the only one to feel this way.
I want my money back.
Dragging the Thomas name into this movie also kind of killed the Thomas experience entirely. Don't get me wrong, the seasons before season 8 are lit, but those seasons had that Magic Railroad stain for a couple reasons. First, the movie put Britt Allcroft out of business, like, instantly, which is why the later seasons felt different than the previous ones. It was now owned by a different company. New style, new budget, new writers, that stuff. And the second reason is how the magic element completely ruined the imagination and overall perspective of Thomas. Thomas and the island of Sodor always felt like a real place you could visit, and even as an adult, I instantly forget that these are just models. And the crazy thing is, I'm not the only one. To this day, people still love the classic Thomas despite growing up. The stories were well written, the subjects that focused on real events were the most memorable, and it especially didn't talk down to its audience. Magic Railroad is the opposite of this. The things it added completely destroyed how we saw the show. The fact that the island of Sodor isn't a real place and can only be accessed using a magic marijuana-powered railroad and is in its own sort of bubble separate from the real world, the magic that made Thomas unique is now gone. This is the same reason why Thomas fans don't like Season 8 and onwards. The realism and more mature stories are no longer there, making it unwatchable for the older fans. And Magic Railroad was the first to cross this line. It's fucked up. And despite Magic Railroad not being considered canon according to the show, it's forever engraved in the fans' memories. This is like a worst case of the Cursed Child. As much as the Harry Potter community tries to ignore it, the Cursed Child is now forever there, leaving its infamous mark onto the franchise.
You f***ing asshole! This is all your fault!
Something interesting, however, is that when looking at the director's cut, which in itself wasn't good, it had less Thomas stuff than what we got in the final product. According to many sources, the test audience didn't like the human villain P.T. Boomer because he was too scary, and they especially demanded for more Thomas, because there was next to none of that. Finding out about this piece of information makes me wonder, was Magic Railroad even intended to be a Thomas movie? Because looking at the director's cut, it seems like it was meant to be a standalone film, but whoever gave Allcroft the okay was like, no one's gonna watch that, put it under a Thomas and Shining Time brand, that'll keep people seated. And to be honest, I think stripping all the Thomas stuff from Allcroft's passion project is what could have made this a more digestible as a movie, and it could have also saved the show from its gruesome fate 20 years later. So I'm gonna wrap up this topic with this question. Do I hate the movie? Do I hate Thomas and the Magic Railroad for doing a live-action model railroad crossover that no one asked for, destroying the magic of the classic Thomas, and subsequently starting the downward spiral of the franchise? No, not really. While Magic Railroad has its problems, I just find the movie overall to be frustrating, convoluted, and always making you question every single thing. The reason I don't hate it is because it's nothing like the Thomas stuff that came afterwards. The hit era, Calling All Engines, the CGI series, Big World, Big Adventures, and especially All Engines Go. All these things are just insulting. There's no imagination or care anymore. The only reason it's still running after all this time, just like The Simpsons, is so it can provide the merchandise. And while Magic Railroad didn't take the right directions, it was still respectful to the Thomas stuff. And hey, let's talk about it. I'm gonna get it all out of the way and say that the stuff regarding the island of Sodor and the engines there is so right. They nailed the feel of classic Thomas. Everything is cozy, there's great props, and except for the small redesign on the trains and the humans interacting with them, it's like this was ripped straight out of the first 5 seasons. One thing that I'll praise is how true the characters' personalities are, and how they stuck with the roots from the Audrey books. Thomas being cheeky, Percy being fun, James being a snot, and Toby being wise. The same can be said about most of the voice actors, especially for Thomas, Gordon, Toby, and Henry. But I must emphasize that. Most. Because good God did they fuck up with James and Percy.
Hey, Mr. C, why do you look so tired? Is it because I'm red? Diesel says red is a very tiring color, but Mr. C. Red looks so nice against the snow.
The problem isn't that they are voiced by women, mind you. I mean, Bart Simpson worked, right? But the problem is that they sound like women. Susan Roman, who played James, just reused Tika's voice from that Barbie movie. As for the new characters, and I mean the engines, they're alright. I just wish they were used properly. Lady seems like such an interesting opportunity, especially for being the first female steam engine introduced. But her time being sentient is extremely short, and she doesn't get much dialogue, or personality out of that. Not even the Thomas fandom knows her personality. She's the Thomas the Tank Engine equivalent of Disney's Elsa. As for the villains, Diesel 10 was cool. A bit, even though I couldn't take him seriously most of the movie, and the climax was a bit underwhelming, being 2.5 minutes long. Splatter and Dodge are boring? Like, what was their motivation to turn against Diesel 10? Is it because he combines their names?
Come and destroy!
No, you do it yourself.
We don't like you.
Yeah, we mean that.
Emphatically.
You don't like him? Since when? You know what? You get my point. Story-wise, they didn't know what they were doing. They just wanted to do a crossover of two popular shows, which ironically turned both their reputations into shit. But to really prove my point that there were so many opportunities they missed to save a story, I'll give you all an example of how you could tweak the movie's plot. Here it goes. First step, remove the human characters. Nobody asked for them, nobody came to see them. Second step, remove the subject of magic and its tie into the Thomas universe. It ruins the reality of the show and doesn't make it timeless. But if you really wanted to add a magic railroad that led somewhere, again, remove the human world, make it a dream. Sure, it's a little sappy and childish, but it doesn't mechanically destroy the Thomas universe. Rule for the engines. Have it where 4 new engines arrive on Sodor. 3 diesels, Diesel 10, Crab and Goyle, and 1 steam engine, Lady. Diesel 10 and his 2 cronies are huge asswipes and constantly tell Lady that she's no use to the world and that she can't amount to anything. Thomas and his friends protect Lady from Diesel 10 and help prove to her that what he says is wrong. Anyone can mount to anything. Everyone can be a useful engine, hence the song added in the movie we got. I chose the subject because I feel that there has to have been some children back then who got bullied to this extent, and if they watched the alternative story, they could relate to the advice Thomas and the engines give Lady. And maybe for some satisfying payoff, you have Rough Nut and Tough Nut turn against Diesel 10 after his constant mistreatment, and have Sir Topham Hatt scolding Diesel for dicking around Sodor like he owns the place, and not doing what he was brought here to do, to work and get the job done. Does this not sound like a better plot, or at least something more tolerable? And the sad thing is that all I did was subtract. I didn't add any new characters or the locations, I just stuck to what was already there. And I'm not even done! If you were to keep the humans in the movie, which I wouldn't, I'd change these small things as well, because they just bother me so much. Let's talk about the biggest problem, Burnett Stone's character. I can't tell if this was the director's fault, or if it was because Peter Fonda wasn't feeling it with this movie, but the acting for Stone is trash. He's so blah, quiet, and boring. It's like if you were to mix all of your Play-Doh into one cup and it comes out with this cat vomit color. There's no emotion in the voice or face at all. The most notable instance is when his granddaughter is missing. You don't feel any concern from him, and then Lady comes back and it's...
Grandpa!
Oh, Lily. I'm so glad to see you.
There's no relief at all. Was Stone wanting Lily to be dead or something? Damn it, you came back. So here's my solution to all of this, which can only be done by the actor. If you still want him to be sad, give little moments where you can feel that Stone's still holding on to hope and optimism. Like in the scene, have it where he's trying to find the light by saying how if Lily's on the island of Sodor, there's engines there that can protect her. I don't know, but in this scene...
Oh, Lily. I'm so glad to see you.
You don't need words to express someone's emotions. Have him hug her with his eyes closed. That's it. That's all you need to express a character's emotions. It's the simple act of show, don't tell. The second and final problem I'd fix is regarding Lily. Upon rewatch, I had suspicion that Lily was meant to be like 8 or 9 years old, but they just wanted to cast Mara Wilson because Matilda was big, because no 11 or 12-year-old would be talking to stuffed animals, rely on a random dog for directions, or be perfectly fine with this. Like Peter Fonda and every other actor in this movie, Mara Wilson is a great actress, still acting to this day as seen with Helvboss. So the problem is clearly writing, casting an older kid to play a younger character. You literally have two ways to fix this. Either cast a younger actress, or make this character older. You'll win either way with this. So that was my Thomas and the Magic Railroad review. It was nice to revisit a big part of my childhood, but it did open my eyes more on the franchise's pros and cons of its past. And it all connects back to Magic Railroad, which only gets defended because of nostalgia. However, after rewatching this after so long, I've come to realize that this is one of the most harmless Thomas movies compared to the rest of the catalog. Of course, this isn't going to stop me from questioning every aspect of Magic Railroad. Like, what the hell is this mountain for? What's the purpose of it having a face? Why is the tumbleweed talking? How are the Topham Hatt paintings changing? Does Diesel 10 know that destroying the Magic Railroad, which would wipe out the engines, would also destroy him too? Why is there a rabbit that can send messages and riddles? And above all, why are the bellflowers used as phones? Who thought this was a good idea? So, yeah, Magic Railroad shouldn't have happened. I appreciate how they handled all the Thomas stuff, and it's perfectly clear that they tried. I may not like the movie, but I do have nostalgia for it. I'm giving the 2000 Thomas and Magic Railroad movie a 4 out of 10. Despite all of its insane elements and lack of focus, it was very clear that there was some passion put into this. They wanted to make a Thomas movie and took the risk. That I can at least appreciate. It's a shame Brett Allcroft and the gang didn't stay, but at least their work, care, and legacy did.